I'm Terry David Mulligan. This is the Mulligan Stew Podcast, July 2022. It's a big deal. It's right smack between Canada Day, July the 1st, and the 4th of July in America. Festivals everywhere. And it's a festival podcast if you're checking out the website. We're going to go to Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and just give you an idea of what's going on. We can't talk about all of the performers. Obviously, there's just not enough time. But on the website, we'll give you links so you can go check out those festivals yourself. The Edmonton Folk Music Festival is all about Terry Wickham and his team. He's the artistic director, the producer. And it starts on Thursday, August the 4th. The kickoff artist was supposed to be Buffy St. Marie. However, she is battling COVID in Hawaii. Taking her place Thursday night is the wonderful, fabulous William Prince at the Edmonton Folk Festival with Kaleo and Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. There you go. There's your kickoff right there on the main stage. Friday, War on Drugs, Orville Peck. Saturday, Larkin Poe, Mary Chapin Carpenter, Allison Russell, and The National, who Terry's been waiting some time to book. And Sunday, Matt Anderson, Mick Flannery, and Susan O'Neill. Old Crow Medicine Show, Lord Huron, and the finale, August 4th through 7th. It's a great lineup. We're going to talk to Terry about that. And then down to Calgary and Kerry Clark, who, of course, is the artistic director of the Calgary Folk Fest and the host and producer of Catch and Release on CKUA Radio. She's got the Wood Brothers, Courtney Barnett, Gangsta Grass, Spoon, Tanika Charles, Squirrel Nut Zippers, lots of artists. And it's on Princess Island Park, July 21 through 24 in Calgary. You're literally on the Bow River. We end in Vancouver with Debbie Samuelson, the artistic director of the Vancouver Folk Fest, July 15 through 17 at Jericho Beach. Alexandro Escovedo, Allison Russell, Asleep at the Wheel, Blue Moon Marquee with Duke Robillard, the Brothers Landreth, Frazee Ford, Lenny Gallant, the New Pornographers, Robin Ford, Shovels and Rope, Taj Mahal, and more. And you're at Jericho Beach, friends. And a new segment for this festival update, Mike Campbell, formerly of Mike and Mike, Much Music, has always been totally zeroed in on bands, new bands. He then became the talent booker for a great room in Halifax called the Carlton, a gorgeous old stone building right downtown. And he's the artistic director of Huff, the Halifax Urban Folk Festival, which is coming up at the end of August and into September. If you're going to go there, you need time to make your plans and everything, but it's Halifax, and there's a ton of music there. So we're going to talk to Mike Campbell and give him an open mic, which is a dangerous thing. All the details at mulliganstew.ca. The podcast is all yours. Enjoy. If you do interviews on your birthday, you only get to phone people named Terry. Terry Wickham.
Very good.
Is the producer of the Edmonton Folk Music Festival 2022. First of all, was there a time, Terry, where 2022 wasn't going to happen? When was the fulcrum? When did it actually fall in our favor?
Yeah, I knew 2020 wasn't going to happen, and I knew 2021 wasn't going to happen because the vaccines weren't going to be out in time, all that kind of stuff. That was easy. But, we were watching it all the time. It's hard to predict. And the virus is still out there, so it's difficult to deal with. But I think people's appetite for more restrictions and the fact that we have, more vaccines out there generally, I think people are ready for it. So I think everybody's kind of running, and you kind of have to at some point. And I think the town, we need a folk festival. We need some soul. We need some connection.
Yes. Did you, well, first of all, you had to make it safe, that's for certain. Did you re-invite those performers from last year?
I re-invited every artist that we had booked in 2020. We had some big ones and they went away, but then some other big ones replaced them, and a lot of the other people hung in. I think we got about 2 out of 3, came back from 2020, but people like the National and the War on Drugs, got added. And Nathaniel Rateliff and Lord Huron and stuff. So yeah, it was a very successful booking year. I realized what the difference between a very good lineup and a great lineup is: luck and persistence. So we're always persistent if we don't get someone. We've been chasing the National for, 10, 15 years or something. So we got lucky this year, and the results at the box office show that we only have 300 tickets left for Friday night. Everything else has gone clean.
I love the fact that Thursday night, the first name I see and the first performer on main stage is Buffy Sainte-Marie, celebrating her 80th birthday. And I love the fact that she's there. She's going to be thrilled to be standing on that stage as well.
Well, I can't think of anybody better to welcome us back to live music and a big gathering than Buffy Sainte-Marie. She's such a great spirit. I don't know her, but I've met her many times and I've driven her around sometimes, and she's just delightful. We delayed because it was the only spot I had left, actually, by the time she came along. So what I did is I instead of having 4 artists on Thursday night, I'm having 3, and we're going to start the show later at 6:45. And that way she's not going on there and then people are still coming in. We want people to come in, settle down, be ready, and then she goes on stage. So we're delighted to have her. I just was hearing about her life story with Tom Power on CBC this morning. I couldn't catch all of it, but she's a pretty fascinating and beautiful spirit.
Could I suggest, Terry Wickham, that if you go to the Mulligan Stew podcast right now, as we speak, the one that you're actually speaking on, you'll see our interview with Buffy Sainte-Marie on her birthday.
Huh.
On the occasion.
That's great. It's your birthday.
Yes,
your
it
birthday
is.
too.
Well, it was hers. I love the fact that you have Kaleo and Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats back to back on that Thursday night. That's a rockin' duo.
Yeah, well, both of them have played the festival before, and usually if they've played it before, they know what they're coming to and they want to come back. So then it just becomes, are they touring Europe, or are they touring, East? And negotiations are always a thing. We're a family event, and, it's pretty amazing what we do, but for $209, you can go and see, 4 days of music and bring your kids for free if they're under 12. So it's impressive that way, what we built. It's a tough festival. There's trying to get a big, machine up and running that hasn't run for 3 years is just a challenge. But we've been doing well so far. Our volunteer department have been outstanding, and our administration through the whole, they've been great through the whole pandemic. So we're ready for it. It's a lot of work, like I say. It's more work than usual because we're taking precautions around the main stage and that kind of thing. Although it's pretty well open for audiences.
How do you define, Terry, the combination of War on Drugs and Orville Peck? They don't exactly work the same road, but it'll be interesting to see them side by each.
People just like great music, so I'm never worried about that. Normally, I close with the War on Drugs because they're a louder, kind of bigger band. But in this case, they're playing Vancouver the next day, so they asked could they go on first, and I said, well, that's good because they're the big technical band. And if they go on first, then, they're a bigger setup technically
Sure.
than Orville. By the time they finish, Orville has another 20, 25 minutes to get ready, and we put on some in-between artists, so it breaks, the atmosphere changes. I think people are open to just great music. That's what we've shown all the time. You can have an African band, a bluegrass band, a headliner, a rock, kind of a soul band. It all works.
I love, first of all, the following night, Saturday, I love Larkin Poe, and they are just going to absolutely steal hearts. Mary Chapin Carpenter, we know about. Allison Russell, we know about. I don't take for granted. We know them. The National will be a stunning closer. But I need to know about La Donna.
La Donna is very good. We just came across her, and it's a different kind of feel. There's a little bit of hip hop there, some influences, a lot of Central American music, I would say, but very exciting. We really like her, so we're looking forward to that. I think it'll be a good afternoon show.
And what finally tipped the scales for the National? Were they finally available and wanted to come?
Yeah, well, one of them came here with Lisa Hannigan, one of the Dressner brothers. Rice, I'm not sure. I think that's his name. But he was here, so I suppose they knew about us in a way, and we just tried them every year. And I think Newport is on. They're going to that. That's 2 weeks before us, so they just happened to be out west. And you have to wait a long time to get the confirmations. But I knew when we got the National, and then later on we got the War on Drugs, I thought, yeah, we've got to, we're really set this year. We're kind of stacked.
Okay, Terry, listen, he's Terry Wickham. He is the producer of the Edmonton Folk Music Festival 2022, August 4 through 7. I'll ask you about that in just a second. Has Sunday always been a sort of a different day? Does it have a different character from Saturday or Friday or Thursday?
Well, it can, but again, it depends on what day artists are available. It tends to be a bit more mellow, but people have had a lot of music over 3 days, and they're kind of settled in, and there's a certain pathos to it ending, and a certain celebration. But Lord Huron came in early, and they were available on the Sunday, so it took them, and it was one of those. I had someone else in the middle spot, and the day they cancelled, I get an email saying, Old Crow Medicine Show are interested. We've been trying to get them for years too. So,
yes.
And then I have this Irish band with Susan O'Neill and Nick
Flannery. Yep,
they've got a #1 hit in Ireland with that album about a year ago. And this is the first time they're going to play it, the only time they're going to play it in North America with the full band and everything. So I think, she was we haven't brought in Mick before, but, we brought in Susan, and she was one of those quiet hits, both in the office and in person.
Oh, he's a handful. He's wonderful. And Matt Anderson starts the day on Sunday. Wonderful.
Yeah, I think there might be some concern there that, can he hold the main stage? I think he can. I think he's very engaging, and I like him. I like him solo. I didn't want to do it with the band. I wanted to do it solo because we're a folk festival, and you have to be able to put solo people on the main stage. So I think he's got the energy to do that. It's not the easiest spot to win over, but I think he'll do fine.
Has the festival changed?
Yeah.
In the 2 years.
It's going to be younger this year. People are going to be younger. It's always changing. We're hoping to do an all-site license, which is new for us. We'll see how that comes off. I think there's going to be a new audience, a new turnover. It's been 3 years. We're always trying to improve. We're keeping, pretty well all our traditions. But it has changed over the years. But people like the familiar too. So the amount of days we run, the times we start, other than Thursday night early or later for Buffy, it's all the same. And the rules for going in, and how you line up and how you get in, and lotteries in the morning, they're all going to be in place.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Okay.
But it's a big lift, I have to say. Anybody knows that in the entertainment industry these days. It's not the easiest one. It was always challenging, but it's a bigger challenge this year. But I think we're up for it.
I'm looking at some dear friends in this lineup. Steve Dawson, for one, coming up from Nashville. Steve Mariner, a big winner, doing his last solo album with Go-Go.
Well, I'll mention one, Bonnie Light Horseman. And that's Aeneas Mitchell, and I think Eric Johnson from Fruit Bats. And Aeneas, she wrote that, she wrote that musical Hadestown that won, I think, 8 Tonys one year. But
yes.
She workshopped it in Edmonton at the Citadel Theatre before it went to New York. So she has a connection with Edmonton. And she's played the festival as a solo before, but I really like their album. I think they're going to be great. If I had another main stage spot, they'd have had it.
And how many years has Amos Garrett and the Festival House Band been playing?
Longer than me, which says something.
Wow.
They started in '86.
Thank you, Terry Wickham. Thank you for producing. Thank you for being there. I'm glad that you're back and that you will be sold out by the time we get to August 4, which is my sister's birthday. I hope somebody sings happy birthday.
Oh, lovely.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you, Terry.
Thank you, mate.
You take care.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye. I'm Terry David Mulligan, and this is the Mulligan Stew Podcast. It's a busy time. Festivals are springing up all over, as they normally would. Some have changed dates. Some have even changed locations, but basically there's almost a sense of normalcy. I have Carey Clark with me from the Calgary Folk Festival. She is, of course, the artistic director and the host-producer of Catch and Release on the mighty CKUA Radio Network. Carey, first of all, your festival back. What does it feel like when you wake up in the morning and know that the festival is up and running again?
It feels great. It feels kind of surreal, and it feels kind of normal at the same time. We did do summer serenades last year, so we did do some live programming at Princess Island Park. We had a bit of a runway up to this year, up to sort of normal. But it still feels, like I said, almost like we didn't go through a pandemic, and almost like it's been a really long drought. And in some ways it feels like we're all kind of relearning our jobs, and artists and agents are relearning theirs as well.
We, all of us, need time out to be outside, time out to actually indulge in what you're offering, and it's fantastic, which is why I just wanted to talk about the artists coming. Were some of them booked previously, like a year or two ago?
Yeah, I would say that probably about 20%, 20 to 30% of the artists that are coming this year were booked for the canceled 2020 festival. Again, because we did some digital programming and summer serenades, we were able to bring in a few that we were able to cover off some of the ones that were from the canceled festival. So about 20% of them were to come. And then a lot changed. We were supposed to have the national, and then their tour routing shifted by 2 weeks, and they ended up in Edmonton instead. And, there were some other artists. A lot of the headliners are brand new. A lot of the headliners that were supposed to come in 2020 weren't available this year. So that's the long answer to, about 20% were from the canceled 2020 festival.
I was looking at the Calgary main stage on the Thursday. And, of course, the dates we're talking are July 21 through 24. This is on Princess Island Park. Squirrel Nut Zippers. You know you're always going to get a great time with Squirrel Nut Zippers. It's as simple as that. You are going to bounce on your toes. Black Boomers are going to bring something else completely different. They might not have seen these two guys with their band on stage. They're very good.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, I think Thursday night we have 4 artists on main stage, and 3 out of the 4 are Black artists, which I think is very cool. And so a very funky night, starting off with a Brazilian artist named Shania Franca, but definitely capping it off with Black Boomers. I don't know if we've got anything quite like them. We do tend to lean into the funk and the hip-hop at our festival, maybe more than some others. But Black Pumas are really going to bring a show for Thursday night, I think. And it is going to be very special. They're an artist, the group that, we know only started getting known in 2018, and they've really exploded since then. And it's going to be a full band, very full sound, and one of those I Saw Them When shows, I think.
Can you tell me about Gangsta Grass?
Yeah, Gangsta Grass are basically bluegrass with hip hop.
Yeah.
So they have a singer a black singer, and it is the two things combined. And I must say, it's really fun and compelling. It's not like having 2 stereos playing 2 different kinds of music on at the same time. It really, really works.
The main stage on the Friday, Betty Smith, of course, Bette Smith. But I've been talking about the Wood Brothers because people might, if they don't know enough about the Wood Brothers, you look at those 3 guys and think, well, what kind of music can those guys make as 3 people? They are the single most exciting trio I've seen on a stage in many, many years. And they all have their own careers and other groups, but together they're fantastic. If you get a chance to see them, right?
For sure, and I'm glad you've seen them. I haven't. I've just had them on my wish list, and of course followed them with Medeski Martin and Wood and other groups, and they are the very definition, I think, of virtuosic. And I'm really happy to hear that you're that keen on them, Terry. I think that's an extra endorsement in my world.
They are so funky. They are so good. I can't tell you how exceptional they are. So check out the Wood Brothers, if for one reason alone, just as a destination. Cadence Weapon. Has Calgary seen enough of Cadence Weapon?
Has Calgary seen which?
Has he played Calgary, the Southern Alberta, a lot?
A fair amount. He's played our festival 4 or 5 years ago, and we actually had him playing at our winter festival block heater. And there was a lot of excitement around him. So we have had him play. And like I say, even in this cycle where he just won the 2021 Polaris Prize, so we had him at block heater. But I feel like, again, our festival leans more into funk and hip-hop as well as lots of other genres, maybe more than some of the other festivals. So he's very at home at our festival, and because he's on the what we call the Twilight Stage, which is a stage that overlaps with the main stage, it has a very different vibe. It's very much a dance party, standing, certainly some people sitting, but we can be a little more edgy on that stage. It doesn't feel like it sort of has to be for everyone like main stage does. So he fits right in, and we have DJ Shub as well, and we have some other funky artists on Twilight. So he really fits, and he's basically the headliner on the Friday night. Right.
Twilight Stage will be an attraction for a certain audience that just wants something different. Surprise me, delight me, give me some memories, that kind of thing. Carey Clark, the artistic director of the Calgary Folk Festival and host, producer of Catch and Release on CKUA. Now, looking at Saturday, Allison Russell. I would go just to see Allison Russell on stage. Spoon, I haven't seen in many years. I wonder if people will be surprised by Spoon.
In terms of them being at the festival, or just surprised by them just as an artist?
Well, both, I think.
Yeah, we've had a lot of, I don't think at the festival, because we've had a lot of indie music. I think they really fit. They're also great songwriters, and that's really my bar is songwriting and storytelling, and they do it really well. They maybe would have been a little more obvious even at our festival for a Thursday or Friday night, because that's when we tend to go a little more indie, but just the way the cards landed this year, you probably would have seen, like I say, you almost would have seen the Friday and the Friday and Saturday night switched in with our normal programming, but I think they really work, and I think they fit. We have the Bar Brothers on that night, and that makes sense, and Tim Baker and Kevin Morby, so I think they all work with Spoon. And then, as you mentioned, Allison Russell, I mean, I think her album was in my top 10 this year. We've had Allison Russell play the festival several times through all her evolutions of music, starting with Po Girl and through to Birds of Chicago, and I've said for years she's a superstar, and I think it's been confirmed. So talented. Yeah. Her lyrics are beautiful, so compelling, and then she plays 3 or 4 different instruments. Her voice is incredible. She's so gracious. She's just the stars are all aligning for her for good reason, and she's just on all the critics' best of lists, and artists are loving her, and we're so happy to have her. It feels really like she's coming home with, with a master's degree in hand. Kind of.
It's fair to say that your Sunday shows are different from the rest of the festivals. I don't know. I mean, it's because it is Sunday, for one. And secondly, it seems to be more soulful, slightly quieter, but just as passionate. And you've got Matt Anderson on stage, who always brings it. Courtney Barnett, who is incomparable. Is simply one of the completely together singer, songwriter, person, human being, thinker, doer, all in one package. Quite remarkable. And Bazia.
Yeah, we've had Basha at the festival several times. We love Basha. Again, a super gracious, lovely artist, always creative. I like to say, and I believe it, that she'll be performing with us in long after I'm doing this job, and she'll be performing into her 60s and 70s. She's always creative, beautiful, and a great singer. I love that vibrato. She and Buffy have that vibrato, and she always puts on a great show. And then, of course, the night starts off with Nick Flannery and Susan O'Neill. And they're 2 Irish artists, and they put out a really, really great album. If you haven't heard it, Terry, it's called In the Game.
Yep.
And Mick's got quite a long career, as you know, and Susan's a bit newer. And this is kind of a concept album, and it's very, very strong. I mean, we can't mention all the artists, but since we focused on Sunday and we only left one out, I wanted to kind of throw them in the mix. And it is quite a singer-songwritery night, really.
One surprise. Give us one surprise that's going to sweep the audience away.
Oh, I'm going to go with Nano Gallo, who is originally from the Ivory Coast and lives in France. Incredible bass player.
Wow.
She's loved by Bootsy Collins. She has a song with Bootsy Collins.
That's good.
She's really, really fierce. We have quite a lot of black artists this year, as we always do, and quite a lot of female-fronted black groups. And I think with the exception of Betty Smith, who is really awesome and funky, they're all instrumentalists as well, which I really love to see. The woman who's fronting the band also play an instrument. I think that just takes us even one step further from having a lot of female artists, is to have artists who also play as well as sing.
How about tickets? What do we know about tickets? Anything sold out? Anything we should keep an eye on?
No, Saturday tends to sell out first. It seems to be the day that everybody is, especially in Calgary, it feels like, Sunday for some people is laundry and grocery shopping day. And so Saturday is always a day that sells out first. And especially with Spoon on that night, I suspect that'll be the case, but it isn't sold out yet. We're going really steady. We usually sell about 87% of our tickets, and we're on track to do that again. But people are really last minute in this town, so a lot of those tickets are sold, the week after Stampede. Once in a while, by that time, we're sold out in a day, and then people say, well, I just found out about it. It's like, we've been advertising for 3 months. We've been trying to send the information. But there are still tickets left. There are tickets left for single days and for the weekend, and we do have discounted tickets for seniors and students, and, of course, 12 and under are free. So it's a pretty good deal for 70 different artists and 7 stages and 36 hours of music.
And there's great food. River Cafe is right there. CalgaryFolkFest.com, July 21 through 24. And there will be sunshine. Kerry Clark is the artistic director and, of course, the host of Catch and Release on CKUA. We wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much, Terry, and happy birthday.
Thank you. This is the Mulligan Stew Podcast, TD Mulligan. I have found Debbie Salmonson, who is the artistic director of the Vancouver Folk Festival. And with finding her, we're going to wrap this whole thing up. We started in Edmonton, and then Calgary, then ended up in Comox with Doug Cox, and now we head for Vancouver, and a fabulous folk festival. It always has been. Jericho Beach, July 15 through 17, and the lineup is sensational. Is this lineup, Debbie, is it a holdover from previous festivals that were supposed to happen, and invites went out, and they had to cancel?
To some extent, it absolutely is, in that I did my best to honor the artists that we'd promised in 2020 and had to cancel. And so a number of them are reflected on the lineup this year. There were a few who weren't touring this year, so they will be held in our hearts and contract space for another festival. But this year, yeah, it's kind of comprised of both artists that we had promised in 2020 and we're really excited to have, as well as working with, I always bring BC and Vancouver artists and give them spots in our festival as well, so people can see them showcase their wares. And then also we were lucky enough to jump in on a few other international artists that are touring. For example, where I know that Debashis Bhattacharya is playing the Edmonton Folk Festival and also playing our festival. So for artists who are wonderful raga slide guitar players like him, it's great to share with another festival so that the international tours work for people.
Did it feel different? Was it a difficult shuffle?
It wasn't really difficult to shuffle. It was more of making sure that who we put together on stages every day and evening flowed well together and represented the variety of genres we always like to present. And I think the thing that's really different this year is, well, almost all the artists that we asked said yes, and we're really excited to be able to tour and perform live again and to see the folk festivals of Canada and the rest of the world return with live events. I think that the concerns for people were around what travel would be like for them and how to work that through as part of tours, and a little bit of fear sometimes maybe that like, oh my gosh, will it really happen or will it cancel again? Because so many artists experienced so many cancellations over the past couple of years. If
you'd like to follow along in the audience, the website is thefestival.bc.ca. And then go /artists. It's really cool. Starting with the A's, as a matter of fact. Alexander Escovedo, Allison Russell, Asleep at the Wheel. Those are good A's.
Those are good A's, and I'm very happy to see them all. And they're all quite different musical genre A's.
It's true. Alexander Escovedo is quite simply just so good. I think he's so good that we take him for granted sometimes. He's a great songwriter, he's a singer, he's a performer, and he's stood the test of time.
He stood the test of time, and he's versatile, and he does lots of interesting projects. And he, I think he was initially known as kind of a cowpunk kind of rockin' guy, but he's also got beautiful poetic, as you say, songwriting and lyrics, and he's worked with great Italian musicians. So I'm really excited to see what he and his band will do this year.
The last time I saw Asleep at the Wheel live was at the Alamo.
That's kind of a perfect place to see them
absolutely
for
perfect.
many reasons.
And they were quite sensational on the night, and I'm dying to see them again. It's a good get. I like that a lot. Here's another one: Blue Moon Marquee with Duke Robillard.
Yeah, it's pretty fun that Duke Robillard, who's like Alejandro in Asleep at the Wheel, a bit of a Texas legend, guitar player, having had his years in the past. Is also, it's really cool that he's paired up with Blue Moon Marquee, I think through the connections that they made through their managers, or maybe they met at Folk Flies or something.
Yep.
And Blooming Marquee are a group that are doing really cool things we're doing really cool things as a duo, and now they've added a really great saxophone player and as well, the always sterling guitar stylings of Duke Robillard. And so they did a bit of a run here in Vancouver and did some recordings, and they've agreed to come and have him come play with them at our festival this year. So I think that'll be fun.
Taj Mahal, literally 2 words, Taj Mahal, that's all you have to say. If you have a chance to see Taj Mahal, go and see Taj Mahal, simple as that. Robin Ford, we don't see him in these parts very often. It's good to see him on stage.
Yeah, well, and we kind of have a run of the Fords that night. Like on Friday night, for those listeners listening, we have the delightful guitar stylings of the wizard Robin Ford. Yep. And then he's followed by Frazee Ford, who's also going to be playing a great soul set with a bit of a choir with her. And then Taj Mahal. But I think as a tweener, maybe between Robin Ford and Frazee Ford, we'll put in local great musician Ford Pier, maybe Pier, for a bit of a tweener. So excellent. The night of the Fords.
You mentioned Frazee. It's nice to see Frazee come back because she's been busy. She's been on the continent and she's been touring Europe and down the States and doing exceptionally well. This is her time. It's her time. Lenny Gallant, who's from the other half of the country. Nice to see him on the left coast. The New Pornographers, you've brought them back to Vancouver where they started. Well done. And Shovels and Rope, who are right now dealing with COVID, and I'm hoping they can get well enough to come and join us.
I'm glad our festival is 15 days away, which gives them a great time, and they are plenty to come. We're all ready for them. I love Shovels and Rope. I love their music. I think and live they are just incredible. So I'm really excited to see them. And also we're doing a really fun workshop session with Shovels and Rope. Haley Hendricks, who, if you haven't heard her, Terry, is a great musician from Portland area, kind of a rising star in the Americana scene in the U.S., and Canada's own Bros Landreth to round out that particular session on Sunday afternoon. So I think that'll be a really great collaborative session. The
Brothers Landreth, they are, of course, great friends of mine and of this show, and they have just toured all over the UK and all over Europe, and to have them back in Vancouver to play is just a coup.
Well, I love having them on site, and I mean, Joey Landreth's guitar playing is just fantastic. Dave, they're all just, the brothers are great, and whoever they bring with them are always just sterling musicians. And their new album is really great and is really a bit more to the folk genre than some of their past work as well. So it's the perfect year to have them join us.
And of course, it helps that Bonnie Raitt's first single of her new album was a Brothers Landreth song.
That must have made their Hope Wish Dream Board a little happier, eh?
They met at the Winnipeg Folk Festival. It took 7 years for Bonnie to finally find a song that they'd written that she put, and then it became their first single.
Yeah, they're great.
Well, congratulations. Now, how are tickets going?
Tickets are ticketing along really, really well, and we're really happy. You never know after you've been away for a little bit, but Vancouver, like so many other festivals, has a good, strong, loyal audience, and as all festivals do, we hope to attract some new audience members to join us this year down at Jericho Beach Park. A great variety of food trucks, a nice adult beverage garden, little kids come for free, of course, and we have activities for them. And I think it'll be a really nice year, and we're just so happy to be back and to have a festival this year, and to welcome our volunteers back. We're still looking for volunteers if anybody wants to come and help us out. And ticket sales are slow and steady, and we hope the weather holds and that all the artists make it. It should be a great weekend.
Congratulations on a great booking.
Thank you, Terry.
Debbie Salmonson, Vancouver Folk Festival, July 15 through 17, Jericho Park. You're on a beach, friends, in the summertime in Vancouver, and you have music coming off the stages. That's all you can ask for. Almost normal.
Well, we'll hope to see you there.
Thank you.
Come join us this year?
Yes, I'll be there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry.
What an adventure. My thanks to Debbie Samuelson from Vancouver Folk Fest, July 15 through 17. Carey Clark, Calgary Folk Fest, July 21 through 24. Terry Wickham, Edmonton Folk Fest, August 4 through 7. One other I want to tell you about, and it's on the other side of Canada. And just a word about the Halifax Urban Folk Festival, the Huff. August 28th through September the 4th. I'm giving you lots of heads up in case you'd like to get yourself to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and meet my friend Mike Campbell. I'm Jerry David Mulligan, and this is the Mulligan Stew podcast. We've decided to do multiple festivals because there are multiple festivals. My friend Mike Campbell is in Halifax, and what is your official title?
My official title is Artistic Director of the Halifax Urban Folk Festival, and also the Program Director of the Carlton in Halifax. As you know, recently won Best Small Venue in Canada at the Canada Live Music Awards.
Right, that's right. Just a note, Mike, this is the new era of podcasting, and we don't have time for answers, only questions.
I see. I understand.
You could keep that in mind. But your festival's different. You have a different slant on what music is. You always have. How did you come by these selections?
Well, one of the things that I always wanted to do, I mean, as you well know, the East Coast is, if we're known for things other than lobsters and lighthouses, it's the musical talent out here. So we have that in spades. So I always thought that a nice festival that featured singer-songwriters or, basically songs, stories about the songs, the people that sing them was going to be our base because it covered every genre of music you can think of if you boil it down to its essence. So what I started doing was using the points that I would collect on my corporate credit card for buying booze at the bar. And rather than using those points to go on vacation to, say, fly to Australia in the middle of the wintertime, I would use those points and fly artists in from around the world to come and play my festival. Even with that kind of edge, my personal sacrifice, as much as I like acoustic music and I like folk music, in some respects, as you probably know, I'm a bit of a rock and roll guy, so I much prefer to see a full band behind these people. So the little trick that I use is I just fly in the songwriter, and then I use the talent that we have in the city of Halifax, in the province.
It's the old Chuck Berry. It's the old Chuck Berry on tour routine.
Absolutely it is, except most of these people are more than 18 years old and they didn't just hear the songs the first time that week. There was a certain amount of selfishness involved because, over the past, certainly since I left Much Music in early 2000s, a lot of acts just stopped touring the East Coast. So there's not a lot of touring bands coming through here anymore, even bar bands, there's just not a lot of it. And certainly a lot of the artists that I want to see, desperately want to see live, are never touring out here. So, somebody like David Perner from Soul Asylum or Dwight Twilley or Norman Blake from Teenage Fan Club or Matthew Sweet or all these other people we've had here, Tiff Merritt, they were never going to be here. The only way they were coming is if I put something together and convinced them they should travel as far as we are away from where most of them are. And so far it works out.
As our friend Garnett would say, giving, always giving.
Giving, that's the thing.
Always giving.
That's the thing.
All right, so now's the rapid round. You ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jake Clemens, that's a nice get.
Yeah, it's a very nice get. Oddly enough, I went to high school with a guy who's his band leader in Belleville, Ontario. And Mark used to be in a band called Photograph that were actually signed to EMI, their first album produced by Daniel Lanois when they were just out of high school. And Mark is still in it. He owns the Empire Theater in Belleville. He has his own festival actually in the summertime. So I had an in there, so that was good.
So Jake's doing funk, rock and roll?
He's a rock and roll guy. He's an indie rock guy.
Okay, fine.
And actually that show, which is at the Carlton on August 30th, sold out in a day. So I haven't announced it yet, but we're going to have him playing for free in the City Hall Grand Parade Square on Saturday, September the 3rd, along with Dear Rouge.
You're going to make me edit this, aren't you? You're just going to go on and on and on.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Sky Wallace. Nice to see Sky Wallace there.
Yeah, Sky, I've been a big fan of her. She played the festival solo quite a few years ago, but she also her band just opened for Matt Mays on his tour.
Yeah.
And if things go the way his other opening acts go, like the Art Kells and July Talk, she's going to do well.
Bob Schneider, for Pete's sake.
Bob Schneider, the most award-winning songwriter in Austin, Texas you're ever going to find. That guy is the best. And there's no way I could have gotten to him except my buddy Steve Poltz got him on a conference call with me and let me talk my face off, and I talked him into it.
I don't know from Adam Baldwin. I need help on that.
Adam is probably one of the hottest songwriters out here at the moment. Most people will recognize him as Matt Mays' right-hand man.
Backstays.
Backstays are from St. John, New Brunswick. They're kind of like a throwback new wave band. We had them booked along with Lovey at the headliner that night, who's from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, now lives in Toronto, but we sold out a date with them at the Carlton that was supposed to reopen after the Huff lockdown.
Okay.
It didn't happen, so rescheduling it was a no-brainer.
Okay, you pick the last two. Go.
Aaron Lee Tasjan from Nashville. He was absolutely mind-blowing. He's a great indie songwriter. One of my favorite new artists. I was introduced to him by Robbie Crowell, another friend of ours from the East Coast, is a top session player in Nashville, and he's also the drummer in Midland. Aaron Lee is as cool as they come. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, and I'll probably send you a link to watch one of the videos because you'll knock your socks off.
And finally,
I think Joel Gibb was from a Toronto band called Hidden Cameras, who were signed to Arts and Crafts. He was also signed to Rough Trade in the UK before he was signed to Arts and Crafts.
Right.
He's an artist as well. He's been living in Berlin the last 5 years, and he's touring Canada. It just so happened that coincided, so he's drop shipping him into Halifax, and he's playing the Carlton on I think August 31st.
So when do you start? What's your start date?
The festival runs at the Carlton, which is the anchor venue, from August 28th to September the 4th. Brightwood Brewers and New Scotland Brewers in Dartmouth will be doing shows there on September 1st and or 2nd and 3rd, and Berwick, their show is going to be on September the 1st.
So are some of the clubs close to, or rooms close to each other?
Yeah, I mean, Halifax, our club is just across the harbor from the two Dartmouth clubs, and the Berwick venue is it's about an hour drive from Halifax. And the free show at the Grand Parade is like it's within walking distance of the Carlton.
I just had this dream that you would stand on a street corner and hear your clubs battling it out on the night. You would just sit there and grin.
Oh, well, that'd be nice, It'd be nice to be able to build a much bigger festival, but certainly over the last few years, what we've been through, I'm happy it's a small one. And the reason it's the Halifax Urban Folk Festival is, I don't know about you, Terry, but I really don't have that much interest in driving into the country, being eaten alive by mosquitoes and using porta potties and can't find decent food.
My God. And how do we get a hold of you? What's the address?
Tickets you can find at thecarlton.ca.
And we can, of course, fly into Halifax here.
Of course you can. You may not get your luggage, but you sure as shit can fly in. Okay, here's to Huff. Thank you very much. And you owe me a meal. I do, and you'll get one. And at the Tiki. Let's hoist some nice...
Could you
bring
do
the
it?
red wine from BC?
Could we do it while I still have teeth?
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Terry.
He is Mike Campbell. He is the artistic director, or claims to be. He's probably had cards printed up, of the Halifax Urban Folk Festival. Huff finishes this edition of Festival Radio, the Mulligan Stew Podcast.